been full-time real estate, full-time entrepreneur, and I've launched a global media agency as well.
So, before we get into any, one compartment of your entrepreneurial life, how do you go about just sort of segmenting your time so that you can actually water each part of this garden, if you will?
So first, I used to be a very shoot first, aim later type of guy. It's one of my mantras. I still am, in a sense. My biggest thing when I was playing is I didn't have a team around me. Like now I have a team of 10 around me, plus having an amazing business manager, a mutual friend of ours, Jake Miller, um, has really organized my life into a bunch of different buckets. We actually use, I don't know if you've heard of, actually, here's the book right here. David Allen, his Getting Things Done systems. Really, for any entrepreneur out there, anyone trying to be productive, um, it's really allowed us to compartmentalize everything. So we've got our in tray stuff that's just every day you being an entrepreneur, you got wild thoughts of just things that you could do, want to do, someone you just met, conversation you just had, idea someone just brought up that you resonated with. You just put it in your in tray, and then at the end of the day, or whenever, you then break down your in tray into what's next. So you either take it from that to next actions, or you take it to waiting. So you actually did something and you're waiting for a response from it. You put it, or you can compartmentalize it to someday maybe. I've got a huge someday maybe category of just stuff that we're
I
not going
think
to
we
mess
all
with
do.
right now. And then you got like a reference tab of just stuff that you want to kind of come back to, and that has really helped everything with me because it's one allowed me to focus on what is our goal, what are we trying to focus on right now, and how do we actually reverse engineer our success versus just like I don't think there's like I'm big on not judging myself, so I could have 70 80 things in the air. I could care less if 30 of them fail or fall because I don't judge myself from that angle. A lot of people will only have one thing in the air because they're scared of letting anything fall when they might be missing out on a whole bunch of other opportunities. I'm an offensive guy.
Now, tell me if I'm wrong, because I could absolutely be off base here, but it looks like you started with multifamilies, at least when they were your own projects, and you were sort of making all the calls. But it seems like you are now in commercial. And I don't have any knowledge, right? If you're in the business space, like actually owning the business entities. So do you have like a preferred market that you go towards, or are you more, where's the opportunity?
So us right now, so Empathy Capital Group is the name of our real estate company. And so just after being in real estate for 8 years and understanding what I like and what I don't like, I flipped houses, I've had small multis, I've managed my own properties, I've had property managers, I've asset managed. I've realized just what I like and what I don't like. And I've realized recently I'm not crazy about operations. So the model we use is syndication, and right now we're doing co-syndicates where we're partnering up with experienced operators in the markets that we focus on, and essentially provide and deploy that capital, for those projects. But the markets that we focus on it's all not math, but it's all data for me. So it's right now we focus on Kansas City, the Orlando, Tampa stretch, Phoenix, Arizona, and Baltimore. And that's I mean, the first way I started to find my markets was like when I was playing, I hired a demographer and I had them scour the data on the census site and the Bureau of Labor Statistics site of essentially where are the jobs going, where are the people going, and then actually visiting those markets, getting a feel for the brokers, the investors, just everyone in those specific cities. And like here's a perfect example. When I was playing with the Lions, just from a data standpoint, there's a market called Elkhart, Indiana, where on paper, it seems like the most booming and best real estate market there. At that time, they might have had like an 8% job growth and population growth. And I'm like, and it was like I think I was on a practice squad at that point for the Lions. And I was like, it was a weekend. I'm like, I got to drive there and figure out what the hell's going on. And literally drove 4 hours to maybe 4 hours to Indiana from Detroit, because it was an away game. So I had like Friday through Sunday. And I go there. And one thing I do when I go to markets is I try and, eat at different places and just talk to everyone, just be a fly on the wall everywhere and just be nosy besides being brokers and investors. And one thing I didn't know about Elkhart, Indiana is the RV capital of the world. And in recessions, people don't buy RVs. And Elkhart, Indiana was the first place Obama went and visited when he took office because they were in such a decline, such a steep. Like I'm sure I haven't looked recently, but probably right now, I'd say they're probably not doing well because not many people. People might buy RVs at this time because you actually can travel in an RV. But in '08, people weren't buying RVs, so it was like, boom, on paper, this place seems like a great place to invest, but in reality, a recession hits and then your investments are going to drop because it's a boom or bust type of town. But like that's kind of how I go. I'm very strategic about how I find the markets.
Got it. Now, of course, now being dedicated to it, you have resources in the time and energy. As much of it that you want to dedicate to it, you can. Very different than doing it while being an athlete, of course. So, I being just like a sort of a journeyman during your time in the NFL, where next week isn't promised. How much did that strain your ability to really pursue this passion and this business model? If you're going to be in Arizona one week and you just don't really know what's going to happen the next, did you really sort of wait to go full throttle until you retired? Or so, was it more sort of, call it half speed while you were playing, just
It
with
was a
the
lot of
uncertainty?
half pregnancy, but it wasn't because of uncertainty. It was just because of honestly more of time. When I was playing in those cities, like maybe digitally, I didn't take advantage enough of like the social equity aspect from a business standpoint. I squeezed the hell out of the orange of those cities. So like when I was in Arizona, for example, before buying my first property, there's this site. You heard of biggerpockets.com?
I have.
So I posted on Bigger Pockets forum saying, "Hey, my name's Hakeem. I'm a tight end for the Cardinals. Would love to network and hang out with a bunch of guys who are interested in the multifamily space." And like 50 people responded to that forum post, and I took every single last one of them out to coffee, out to dinner. They walked me their properties. Some of them just pitched me right when I met them, and I'm like, "Yeah, get the hell out of here." And but from that, like I did that in every city I played in, and I mean, I took it, like I tried to take advantage of it as much as possible. And like now, a lot of my focus for a lot of the stuff I do right now are in Detroit, in Phoenix, New Jersey is where I'm originally from. So it's that's I wouldn't say it's easier for me there, but it just wound up working out really well in that sense. So it was yes, it was very hard for me because I didn't have the team around me back then. It was just me kind of privately being an entrepreneur in my own realm and not necessarily talking about it, just putting my head down and going. Like I bought my first property in like April of 2017 and didn't talk about it until 2019.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I wanted to ask is, you can talk about it, right? Maybe in a locker room when you're with guys and that you're always around like a very large team of people. But particularly now when you're not tied to anyone, right? You have your team of people, what is your social media approach in terms, because I mean, it's a different audience for Instagram versus LinkedIn versus, Twitter or anything else. How do you think about whether it's real estate or any other venture that you have, just sort of taking those different channels and figuring out how to disseminate your message?
For me, I see content as I mean, for me, there's no end game. You know, like being an entrepreneur is a forever thing for me. There's no finish line. So when you're trying to build in, perpetuity and really scale what you're trying to do, I don't have to, a lot of people are throwing a lot of right hooks and a lot of people can't hold their breath when it comes to social media. They have to sell. They have to almost not sell their soul, but sell their soul essentially. And I see social media as just a massive opportunity to build brand at scale by documenting and posting your truths and trying to figure out, before I post something, how is this going to bring value to this audience? So, if I have one video that I'm posting, let's say on Instagram, that I might post on LinkedIn, that I might post on Facebook, all three videos I might post them, but all three of them will have a different caption. LinkedIn's more of a business type of mind. Instagram is your friends from home, and Facebook is, your parents and their whole demographic. So it's from my perspective, I really treat like right. I mean, we have a solid system now, having a production team, having interns, having employees that can actually turn up the content for you and be waiting for you to now post. That's a little different. But from my eyes, like when I first started, like I didn't start post. Like, here's a perfect example. When I said I didn't talk about my first property until 2019. So right after I retired was when I started posting truths. Like I posted on LinkedIn, how I bought a 4-unit apartment building in the NFL. And like my very first post on LinkedIn had 300 connections, and I literally walked through the process of how I used an FHA loan, how I put down only $13,000, how I lived in one unit and rent out the other three for free. I mean, to live for free. That video got 55,000 views on LinkedIn and got invited on 15 podcasts. Got like, I'm sure as an FA, you know what a 1031 exchange is. Two people had $250,000 that they had like 20 days left on a 1031 exchange, and they needed to deploy the capital into a deal. And like reaching out to me, like, hey, you got any deals? I got $250,000. I'm like, no, but let me get your number. And then like I got 3 paid speaking engagements from it, and I'm just like, wow. Like from that, I'm like, I need to triple down on this, because like this is wild. And like my next video got 20 views, the next one got 70 views, next one got 50 views, and then the next one got 88,000 views. And like the same thing happened all over again. And it was just realizing that, one, being unemotional about the content you put out. A lot of people are super emotional about it. Post it, then they're just uploading to see who's liking it, see who's all that type of stuff. I just post and continue what like posting on social media needs to be a 1.5 to 2 minute process. And then you go back to what you're doing. Whereas a lot of other people, it's a 45-minute process per post. And that's not okay.
Yeah, and I think I'm to an extent paraphrasing, Gary Vee here, but sort of
100%.
But to be sort of disconnected from the outcome of it, you're not doing it for the likes, you're doing it because it's your passion, and you just want to share your passion. Don't worry about the likes, the views. Do it because you love it, and then just worry about the next piece so that you can continue to put it out there.
100%. And then on top of it, people get emotional about it. Like, oh, I got 15 people only viewed my video, which it might seem like a super small number, but like if you had the opportunity to speak at a coffee shop in front of 15 people, you'd probably take it. What's the difference? It's 2020 and we're in a digital world. And it's if those 15 people, like that content, then you just brought some value to those 15 people. Like you would have appreciated if you spoke at a coffee shop to those 15 people,
Yeah. And at the moment, you can't even go to a coffee shop and speak to 15 people. So if you get 15 people online, it's better than you're going to do anyplace else.
That's real.
But that being said, in this environment, how much does just COVID and the unknown of how this will play out, how does that affect your decision-making in terms of deals and what you might think as being a good opportunity? Has it changed at all? Are you holding back a little bit, taking more of a sit and wait approach as opposed to being, would you say shoot first, aim later?
So from a real estate standpoint, so our investor base is professional athletes. We're big on the educational side of things before, presenting deals. Right now is a perfect opportunity to just, like I said, if you can hold your breath, you have no pressure to, this is a forever game. You have no pressure to be stressed about a time right now. And so we're looking at this as just a massive opportunity to educate our investors and our new investors that are coming on board, like into our platform. Essentially, we're not buying anything. I'm on the sidelines just watching. I'm listening to a lot of guys make a lot of bold predictions about a lot of different things where this hasn't happened ever. So no one has any type of framework to compare this to. And so I'm definitely just sitting on the sidelines watching, waiting, because I think, we don't know what the residual effect is. I mean, we have ideas of what the residual effect could be of this, but it could be really bad. Like, colleges start to shut down, that real estate around those colleges is going to be really bad. Most people don't understand how much a college holds weight from a real estate standpoint in a whole bunch of, micro markets and sub-markets like UMass, like a West Virginia, like any damn school, honestly, because most like that small businesses, yes, they're being affected by COVID, but they'll be way more affected if there's no college anymore in those towns that they're relying on for business. And then from our media companies aspect, we made a hard pivot from what we were doing outside of creative strategy, media buying, and production of content. Now we've made a shift into the podcast production realm. So we've essentially created a turnkey product where we hold our clients' hands through episode 4 of their podcast. And because I think right now is a great time. I think everybody should have a podcast, but right now is a great time because everybody's thought about starting one, but no one's necessarily had the time to do it.